A new year is here, and St. Lucie County has a lot to look forward to. Find out what next on Inside St. Lucie. Hello and welcome to this edition of Inside St. Lucie, SLC TV's monthly government affairs show. I'm your host, Eric Gill, Communications Director for St. Lucie County, and on today's show we're going to take a look back at 2018 while looking ahead at 2019 with our guest, St. Lucie County Administrator Howard Tipton and St. Lucie County Commissioner for District 1, Chris Sadowski. But before we meet our guests, there's some upcoming events and announcements from the Board of County Commissioners. St. Lucie County offices will be closed Monday, January 21st in observance of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. St. Lucie County will host a Wildfire Expo on Saturday, February 2nd from noon to 5 p.m. at the George Lestrange Preserve located at 4911 Rawls Road in Fort Pierce. In honor of National Fire Awareness Week, this family-friendly event will feature hands-on demonstrations from various first responders from throughout the area. Coffee with the Chair, hosted by the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce, is held on the fourth Friday of each month starting at 8:30 a.m. in the SLC TV studios of the County Administration Complex on the old Civic Center side, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce. Be sure to stop in for a hot cup of coffee and hear the latest news from the Chamber and the County. A reminder that the Board of County Commission meetings are held at 6 p.m. on the first Tuesday and at 9 a.m. on the third Tuesday in the Commission Chambers of the Roger Poitras Administration Annex, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce. The Board typically holds an informal meeting on the second Tuesday at 9 a.m. in Conference Room 3. Now for the latest updates about all St. Lucie County Commission meetings, workshops, and events, be sure to visit our website at stlucieco.gov and click on our comprehensive calendar located in the lower right-hand corner. And if you'd like to be added to our press release distribution list, send us an email at slctv@stlucieco.org. We also hope you'll follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're going to take a quick break right now, but before we do, we're going to check in with the latest economic development stats with another St. Lucie Works. The bed tax revenue in St. Lucie County decreased in October by 12% compared to the previous year. However, the overall tourism revenue for the fiscal year increased by 6.1%, creating another record-setting year, bringing in just over $4.1 million. Overall building activity in St. Lucie County remained steady in October compared to September, with 826 permits being submitted. Revenue for that time frame was up by 3% and above the yearly average. According to the Florida Realtors Association, the average median home sale price in St. Lucie County was $222,640, up almost 5% from last year, while condos jumped in value by 11%, with the median price at $161,000. St. Lucie County's unemployment rate fell to near record lows to 3.7% in October compared to September's 3.8%. Last year, St. Lucie County's unemployment rate was 4.7%. Statewide, the unemployment rate was 3%. There were 4,200 more jobs on the Treasure Coast compared to last year, with the largest gains in education and health services with 1,300, mining and construction with 1,200, and retail with 900. If you work for a local business looking for skilled or trained labor, be sure to contact the staff at CareerSource as they can assist your company with its recruitment and training needs. And if you're an individual looking for a job, they can help you as well. Visit CareerSource online at careersourcerc.com or call 1-855-4U2-HIRE. Welcome back to Inside St. Lucie. I'm your host, Eric Gill, and I'm joined by St. Lucie County Commissioner Chris Sadowski. Commissioner, thank you so much. And Howard Tipton, our County Administrator. I'd reach across, but that's just rude, so I'll just wave to you.
Oh, no worries.
Well, thank you both for coming on. It's a new year. There's a lot happening, but it's also a time to take a step back and look back at 2018 and some of the successes we had and things we can improve on. We did have a lot of successes in 2018. I know County Administrator Tipton touched on it at his State of the County address, which was even before the year was over. You usually do that in October, but and then we finished off the rest of the year on even more of a positive note.
Yeah, no, a lot of things to be grateful for. I cannot remember in my local government tenure that a year when we've had stronger outcomes than we've had this year. And I think it's across the board. I think not only has the county seen it as overall, but our cities have seen tremendous success as well. So I think it really has been north to south, east to west. It's been a good year.
Yeah, and it all started with the budget process and our staffs. Our staffs looking at, what can we do to reduce budget costs? What can we do to be more efficient? What can we do to plan for the future? And so that is a credit to Mr. Tipton, but also to our very professional staff.
Yeah.
And so that's where it starts. And being able, and this year alone, we actually reduced our budget. So that's very good for the future, and we'll go through some of that stuff tonight.
And it started, I think, when Mr. Tipton came on. We looked at, you brought together a plan to look at reducing the deficit spending that we've been doing for the last few years, or living off reserves. We're not negatively balanced. Set the record straight. I saw that twitch in your eye.
We say budget stabilization.
Budget stabilization to get us on track. But there were some things that were out there that we had no control over that could have impacted us, like Amendment 1, which failed. The voters turned down.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of the things. First of all, we continue to grow. So we saw in the last 12 months about 7,000 people coming to our community. We're about 313,000 people now overall, which is quite a bit. Port St. Lucie continues to be the 8th largest city in the state of Florida, moving to number 7 at just under 190,000 people. And we see statewide that we continue to add about 1,000 people a day. And so the growth that we forecast and the planning that we're doing for the future, if you look at South Florida and the growth coming north, it's here. This isn't a what-if scenario. This is just a when scenario, and that's what we're trying to get ready for.
But along those lines, getting ready for, and we talk about budgets and we talk about planning and so on and so forth, the difficult part for counties and cities is planning around the legislature's positioning and how they bring the budget and provide us with unfunded mandates. Those basically are things that are sent down to us to pay for without any money from the state. And for instance, the travesty that occurred at the school to our south, and the situation that resolved there, the state chose to send us, an unfunded mandate to put sheriff's deputies in each school. For us, it was in the millions of dollars. So that cost is borne upon us locally at this time anyway, and we're hoping that they'll change that in next year's legislative component. But the hard part for us is being able to plan when these unfunded mandates, as known to us, down to the local taxpayers.
And if you think about planning for this future growth, so we've got to think about just basic infrastructure. And so this year we had water service going up to North US 1. So it really creates the opportunity for expansion there. We think about healthcare and a growing population that includes some seniors. You want to make sure that you've got the medical facilities as well. And so Martin Healthcare Systems announcement that they are going to be merging with the Cleveland Clinic, and then also adding a new cardiac unit there at Tradition. $130 million, I think, investment. It's huge, and so we're looking forward to working with that, and the board has been supportive of all of that. So a lot of key infrastructure improvements. We were able to get some sand on the beach in Fort Pierce just in time, actually. Square Grouper was getting ready to become an island, and so that worked out. So just across the board, trying to look at the growth, trying to think about what's coming, understanding too that as we have a workforce that's growing, we want to make sure that we're partnering with the school board, which saw another year of record graduation rates, with IRSC, which is positioning itself for a run for the #1 spot in terms of the Aspen Award, with CareerSource and the good things that they're doing and coordinating with everybody. And then we also take a look at some of the social needs that, one of the things about our income levels is that a lot of our employers aren't able to provide health insurance. And so the board this year was able to increase the HANDS funding, which is a clinic that provides health insurance or healthcare services for those that we would consider to be the working poor. They have jobs, they just don't have insurance. And we were able to open up another day because of the funding that the board is providing for that. So we're trying to look at everything in total, growing population, lots of needs, but really at the same time focused on economic development. And I think the belief that the rising tide really does help everybody.
And that's a good point. We're throwing a lot at our listeners today, viewers today, but it's important to understand that there's a lot of moving parts here. And you talk about the growth. You know, our investment in the Economic Development Council, Pete Tesh and his team, has returned dividends time and time and time again. TAMCO is a company that is coming into the Port St. Lucie area. Oculus, it's a company that does machines for eye work, LASIK and other. And there's a wire company that's coming in. We're looking at expanding at the airport with Maverick Boats. They did a 200,000 square foot expansion with 200,000 projected in the future. Hundreds of jobs. Moving forward with Pursuit's future expansion. Our 30,000 square foot MRO hangar, or manufacturing renovation and overhaul. And then most recent announcement by the flight school to bring in A&P mechanics, mechanics who will work on aircraft. So we're wrapping our arms around the entire community and kind of just embracing the entire community from the south to the north and to the east. And to the east, of course, our investment in the port and the mega yachts and our relationship with Director and the new Fort Pierce Yacht and Ship. So 2 operators at the port. Howard talked about Career Source and IRSC working together to bring the education, the technical skills that will be needed for port and airport maintenance. So all of those things are coming together. It's taken a long time to get here. I started a few years back when it was 16.9% unemployment. Today's numbers are in the area of 3.7, 3.9, and so I can tell you that it's been the long-term planning and the process by which we see the bigger picture, and so now we're starting to see the results.
Yeah, you mentioned the port, and I think during Howard's State of the County address, there was a figure that one business alone, just from one ship over a 4-month time,
It was about $260,000 worth of business just from one boat.
One boat, so that you multiply that by how many businesses that could benefit, if we get multiple boats there over, a reoccurring basis.
So let's just talk about the port for a second, because I think 2018 will go down as a real transformational year for the Port of Fort Pierce. And so in January, the board completed the purchase of the 12.5 acres of the working waterfront. It's the real first large-scale activity that we've seen in a long time, decades, right? Yeah, decades, really. The board then in November made the final selection, after a very open and transparent selection process, a new vendor who will operate the mega yacht refitting facility that will be located at the Port of Fort Pierce. And so we're working with them, and you'll begin to really see a ramp up here in 2019 of the boats coming in and the level of activity. But we had originally projected about 900 jobs altogether being created as a result of this activity. We talked about an economic environment in impact of over $105 million. And I think we've underestimated the impacts on both of those. I think they'll actually be greater once we're up and running. And that takes a couple of years to get there. But the excitement and the opportunity that the port has because of our position, right? No bridges, no line, we have the depth. It's perfect for sailing vessels who really now have to go maybe across the pond, so to speak, to get maintained. So it really, I think, is positioning us well for the workforce that we have and for the opportunities that are in front of us. It's the most exciting thing I've certainly been involved with since I've been here.
Yeah, and I went back, I was going through the attic during the holidays, cleaning out stuff, and I found a box of old newspaper clippings from '97. Wow. County announces new deal to develop the port, and of course, that never happened, but
21 years later.
But again, I think what the key was, as Mr. Tippin says, we didn't own the working waterfront. We just had that small parcel of land, a Harbor Point park, and that, you don't own that. And then I've seen some debate about that. Well, why is the county owning that? But most of we were the only deep water port that wasn't publicly owned.
Right.
Yeah, and what that means too is that those monies from the ports councils don't, trickle down to us.
Yeah, they go to the other ports.
Yeah, and so the same thing with the state monies. So because we are able to own the port, those grants and those funds can come into us. And so those who are going to be there currently in the first stages, Director and Fort Pierce Yacht and Ship, they can benefit from that going forward. So that's really important. If I can switch gears just a little bit, you know, we talked about the budget. We talked about, you know, how we have been managing our budget over, in my case, you know, for about 10 years. We have done a good job at maintaining services. We were very fortunate that the residents and the taxpayers and the voters of this community saw that our infrastructure needs were behind, if you will, because of the recession. I think everybody felt it, everybody knew that it existed. And because of our efforts, and quite frankly, yours, sir, I will give you absolute kudos. You did a great job getting out there. And
was it certainly a team
educating.
effort? You know, the cities, especially City of Port St.
But
Lucie.
I want to recognize to our folks at home, because you did on a daily, weekly basis, you know, talk about and educate, you know, what the value of this process was and is. So now we're able to cobble together, I think, countywide, each of the cities in the county unincorporated, is about $18 million a year. Bring that to be about $9 million for Port St. Lucie, $8 million for unincorporated, and two point something million for Fort Pierce.
It's even better for us, actually. It's about 9.2 for us.
Yeah.
A little
I don't
over
want to sell
seven-
myself short.
That's right. Seven plus million for the city of Port St. Lucie, and then a little around 2 million for
I'm
the
just so
city of
used to
Fort
not
Pierce.
having money that
That's
right.
I must be on the lower end of the scale. But that said, you know, we just announced last month our 3-year plan, getting many miles of road repaved. We're going to work on those culverts that failed during the hurricanes, repairing the roads that are necessary for infrastructure but commerce, looking at possible ways of replacing bridges going forward. So all of that's so very important. And one of the projects that I have been working on since I got here was Paradise Park, a small community along the Juanita corridor in the North County. From US 1 out to Angle Road is where the community along Juanita is. And this community was built, you know, platted in the 40s, built with dirt roads, kind of stick together, you know, one house at a time, not like the planned unit developments in Port St. Lucie. So, you know, those come in, they have all the roads, the sidewalks, you know, the light, all those types of things. So what we have been doing for 10 years is cobbling together and redoing the infrastructure that's necessary for drainage and roads. So the folks have been very, very patient, and I'm so appreciative of their input too, of helping us move things forward and staying with the program. So this year, coming in 19, we will have the final phase, a $1.74 million final phase that will complete the entire neighborhood with roads and drainage.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy about having been able to accomplish that, and it took longer than I thought. And I'm sure Howard's tired of me being in his office, and I know that our
Public Works is
Public
probably
Works
even better.
has had enough of me, but it was important to get done, and so now we're seeing that come to completion along that same corridor. Harmony Heights, also another community built early on in St. Lucie's history with dirt roads, and here we are back in 2018. You know, it had dirt roads. And so one of the things was to actually move forward with a process to give at least chip seal. That's a start. And then the future is programmed for drainage. And then over a couple of years, 3 years time, maybe we'll come back and actually be able to build the roads to the current standards that are going into Paradise Park. So it takes time. It takes cobbling these monies together in different ways. And so we're very excited about some of those things that have unfolded.
And that was one of the things I kind of opened my eyes during the process when going out and talking to HOAs and civic groups, and some people would say, well, or if we were doing the President's Council or somewhere on South Hutchinson Island, well, there's nothing in my neighborhood that benefits me. But a project like Harmony Heights would benefit them because it's going to clean up the lagoon. If we can improve drainage, it may not be your direct neighborhood, but you know, everything flows downstream or, you know, out west or out east to you.
You make a good point, because both these communities, Harmony Heights, Sunland Gardens, and Paradise Park, are what's the word? Paralleled by the canals that end up coming out of Taylor Creek. And so if they have septic and there's flooding in the area or drainage necessary, it goes directly into those canals, directly into the lagoon. So now these projects are actually cleaning the water, not letting that effluent go into the lagoon and add those contaminants. So that's one interesting thing about how we've approached things. Road projects are also drainage projects.
Yeah.
So you get 2 times the value,
Yeah.
more bang for the buck, as they say.
Yeah.
And we've talked before about, Florida in general, and I think maybe St. Lucie County as
More
much as
so than
anybody.
others.
Yeah, we're overcoming the Florida on the cheap developments, right? So it really is just as the commissioner said, we're coming in and trying to retrofit communities that were really built in a substandard manner even back then, but trying to bring them up to speed. It takes time. It's not easy. We've seen Port St. Lucie give them great kudos for the efforts that they've done going from septic to sewer. But it takes a long time to replumb a community
Sure.
from roads and drainage to the utilities and everything else. And that's what we're trying to do. It's the right thing to do for the long term as well.
And again, I'm a little bit now kind of focused on just District 1 as the District 1 commissioner. And for those of you unfamiliar with District 1, District 1 is all of South Beach from Jensen all the way up to the jetty. And then it wraps around and makes its way down Indian River Drive. And then it jets its way south to Edwards Road, out to Brock Smith, going toward the fairgrounds. And then it goes to the north to St. Lucie Boulevard, just south of the airport. And then it makes its way back down into the city of Fort Pierce. So that area specifically has a lot of needs because it's an older part of the county. It is covered by both the city and the county. We have a lot of incorporated areas, unincorporated areas. You can drive down one street and half the street's in the city, the other half's in an unincorporated county. So those are challenges that my office faces in trying to work through the process. And having a great relationship with Fort Pierce has been very helpful. To give you an idea, we just talked about our federal issues with trying to get sand on the beach and protecting those businesses, but also protecting the barrier island. And we were working forward to get some FEMA money to do an emergency repair. But the situation is very difficult. With the way the federal government is working these days, it's very uncertain as to how and when monies will come. So that's something we continue to work on, and we're trying to get a 50-year plan that was general report and review and report. Is that all?
GRA, yeah.
GRR.
GRR,
General
anyway.
reevaluation.
There you go. It's the government has a lot of acronyms, so sorry about that, guys. But we're looking for a 50-year plan so that we can go in and actually start doing things that will mitigate some of the sand movement from the beach. But without the 50-year plan and the funding to go with it, we're going to be challenged like this. So that's one of the challenges that I face as District 1 Commissioner. And my colleagues have been very helpful, and I will share that Franny Hutchinson, who's been the Erosion Control District Chair for many years, has been the leader and the expert on this thing. So I look to her for guidance as well. And then you bring it in, we talked about the port, we talked about the airport, southern part of the airport. All of those things are starting to make sense in District 1. But then you wrap around, you get out to Kings Highway, the Kings Highway expansion, the interchange expansions, those are all coming. The Sunrise City Kitchen. Sunshine Kitchen. Sunrise City, Fort Pierce.
Yeah, Sunshine Kitchen.
So anyway, Sunshine Kitchen. And so now we have a working kitchen.
Yeah.
That was an investment that was made to actually bring those into the play. So a lot of those things are happening. Those are really great efforts from St. Lucie County. And then, of course, at Edwards Road, we see that as a challenge that we had after the hurricanes. So Commissioner Hutchinson and I share Edwards Road as commissioners and districts. And unfortunately, because of the last hurricane and the flooding and the amount of pressure that was put upon those culverts and those drainage systems, that road has failed. So we're going to have to spend several million. I think it was $6 million last told, 6 or 7 million. So again, these hurricanes create problems and difficulty for the county budget. But because we have a great team of commissioners and especially our staff and the leadership of Mr. Tipton, we've been very successful. So thank you again for that, for your help.
Now, you mentioned the storm impacts, and I think I've shared before that we had about $20 million worth of total impacts, a lot of those on the beaches. One of the things that the board just approved was the acceptance of a FEMA reimbursement for South Beach renourishment, and it's a $12 million grant. And so we'll be in design in 19 and getting to that probably in 2020. So that's an exciting opportunity for us to kind of shore up that shoreline. But the beaches are a big concern. It's a big impact. It's an important part of our economy, an important part of tourism, which, by the way, also saw another record year.
Yeah.
And thank you for your leadership on that as the head of and chair of the Tourist Development Council. But it's a big, complex, difficult to coordinate
Sure.
endeavor because there are so many different agencies, especially at the federal level, involved. So
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when talking about that at the recent board meeting. Somebody from the President's Council got up and spoke about the residents that live on the beach, and and of course, people that live west of town say, well, they should pay for it. They get more access, but of course, they say, well, we also pay more in taxes, and we were one of them said most of them go, especially if you're south of the power plant, it's almost easier for them to drive into Stewart and Jensen than all the way up to Fort Pierce logistically. So they kind of consider that their home base, and we need to convince them to keep their tax dollars here in St. Lucie
Well, I
County.
can tell them there's a way you can go across the Jensen Bridge to Walton Road and make yourself right to the Civic Center.
yeah.
So you'll be right there. It's how quick you can be right in Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
yeah,
See?
no, I think we all benefit from the beaches. Now, there are certainly some direct benefits from those that are right there.
Sure.
And I think historically they have paid more.
Yeah.
But we all benefit. Our total economy benefits from healthy beaches, for
Absolutely.
sure.
We talked about some of the improvements for economic development, but also reducing the unemployment rate. St. Lucie County and our transit system actually worked with and achieved a grant to provide free bus service. We have exceeded all expectations in the ridership of the transit system. It's over 150% increase in ridership. So what we're seeing is those folks who normally weren't able to get to a job now not only can get to school, to training, and then to a job, or all the above. We're seeing that as a huge improvement in the job force side. Our libraries are bursting at the seams, and so all of that is really helping our youth move into the next sector, and that being jobs. So.
And it's not just, it's some of the programs. I'm a huge library fan, and they get the books I like to read, and Susan takes care of me and orders stuff. But they have great programs on how to use your smartphone, or some of the online services that libraries offer. So it's not just, I remember one former commissioner was like, well, nobody even uses libraries anymore. But you'd be surprised. They don't use them traditionally like they used to do, where you'd have to go in and pull out the encyclopedia to do your research, but they're going in there to use it for Photoshop or record music or
Search for jobs.
Search for jobs,
No,
or just
applications.
play ukulele. People still need to get de-stress.
That's right. Maybe now more than ever.
Exactly. Well, looking forward, we're running short on time. What's coming up in 2019? What do we?
Well, again, the yachts, the mega yachts at the port are going to be a huge focus. The airport is going to be a huge focus. Again, job creation, business attraction, but the infrastructure repairs, the maintenance. That which is very necessary for quality of life in our community. So those are major focuses. Something that I have been focused on for a very long time and trying to talk through is a North County Utility Authority. It's been brought through, it's been discussed, and we're hoping that Fort Pierce will want to kind of work with us in the water and sewer authority specifically. Not so much the electric and gas part of it, but the water and sewer. That Mr. Tipton talked about it. The North US 1 water has paid dividends. So if we can work for that and move that forward and begin to take down the South Beach wastewater plant, that'll help economic development, private investment. So a lot of those things are so important to our future. And I know Mr. Tipton has a lot of things that he would like to see done, and I know my other commissioners have their wish lists too. But that's just a very, very small part of what I hope to bring forward and focus on. So.
Yeah, and I think for us looking to 2019, it's really as we have the Amendment 1 behind us, and so we have some kind of planning horizon. I think it really is trying to get ourselves prepared for the growth that we know is coming, and for the success in dealing with that growth better than past generations have done here in Florida. So the utilities, the transit piece, the roads piece, creating sustainable job growth and development, making sure that our natural resources are looked after. It takes a lot of future planning, given the limited resources we have, to make sure that we're prioritizing everything in the right way. And so I think this year coming up will be a great year for those conversations.
And I really want to put an exclamation point on the quality of life in St. Lucie County. You know, Environmental Resources has done a terrific job in cobbling together a lot of very significant lands, which is on the beach and out in our western areas. And most recently, we are the recipients of grants from the state to continue to be reimbursed for investments that the citizens have made over the last 25 years. And so we are now embarking on a guided hike scenario in each of our preserves. And that's a great way to get out and enjoy the nature as it once was in Florida, old Florida, as they say. So again, that's a major quality of life effort that has been undertaken since the 90s, thanks to the taxpayers.
I think you talk about partnerships. I know the health department has even jumped in on some of those hikes with their billion-step challenge and leading groups. And you know, I may get 100,000 steps, but a billion's a little too much. But I do try to get out and enjoy this.
Let me see.
I got bad knees. Oh, you see, you got
1.7 million steps since last August.
Really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right.
Not bad.
He's doing his part.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both for your time. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
you
for
coming
having
on.
us.
Thanks,
Looking
Eric.
back and
Appreciate
looking
it.
forward. Thank you
There you
both.
go.
I'll reach that time.
That's okay.
A Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Inside St. Lucie, and we hope you'll tune in again next month. If you have topics or subjects you'd like to see covered here on the program relating to St. Lucie County government, give us a call at 772-462-1791 or send us an email at slctv@stlucieco.org. And if you'd like to see previously aired episodes of this or other SLC TV programs, visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/stluciegov. For myself and the staff here at SLC TV, thanks for watching.